Hi there, welcome to the Hills Church Sunday Messages. We're Andy and Victoria, and we have the honour and privilege of leading the Hills Church.
Yeah, and we really hope that today's message encourages you and strengthens you in your faith and walk with Jesus. So right now, over to today's message.
Hey, so today's message is titled, But God Can Redeem. Somebody say, But God Can Redeem. Very good. Everyone's awake this morning. Here's the beautiful thing. God doesn't stop at saving us. He redeems us, He restores us, He rebuilds us, and He renews us. All of us have seasons, moments, or years that felt wasted, pain that felt pointless, loss that felt crushing, detours that made no sense. And I want to be honest with you, church, for a moment this morning. I have been there too. I remember when God called me to Mattersey Hall Bible College, walking through that small village outside Sheffield, particularly in my first year. I kept asking myself, why, God, did you bring me here? I was really struggling. I was struggling to sit still in the lectures. I was struggling to make sense of the studies. I mean, I remember I thought I would try out the Greek. I said, hey, sure, I'm at Bible college. And to understand Greek, you first have to understand English. So I went into the room and he started talking about nouns and verbs and adjectives. And truth being told, I had no idea what he was talking about. And to this day, I'm not really sure what a noun, an adjective, or a verb even is. My son knows more than I do. But I'm not stupid, I'm just smart in a different way. There's a word for someone this morning. You're not stupid, you're just smart in a different way. Finances were basically zero. I literally thought I was wasted at times. I almost thought God had forgotten me. I'd left my business behind and stepped out, and I thought I had 1,000% done the wrong thing. Anyone else ever feel a bit like that? When we started this church, it was kind of similar. Not everyone believed it was the Lord leading us. Some people thought we were a little bit crazy, and maybe they were right. Some even struggled to understand what we were doing. And to be honest, some of them were actually Christians, and that was painful. But sometimes, church, to step into God's fullness, you have to walk into the unknown. Sometimes to step fully into what God has for you, you have to let go of people, places, and things. That is not easy though, but it's part of the journey. You have to be willing to trust God even when it's painful. There have been battle seasons in my life. But God has brought me through every single one. I wanted everything to happen overnight. But God's timing is always perfect. He's taught me that delays are not wasted seasons. They're the seasons where He does the most. Strengthen trust. They sharpen character, preparing us for our next steps. Very quiet on here this morning. Even now, I sometimes battle the thought that I'm in a delay. But when I step back, I realize that delays are actually some of the best days we've ever lived in church. Miraculous days, days to trust, to grow, to enjoy the journey and celebrate God's faithfulness, even when it feels like nothing is moving at the speed or direction that we want it to. Anyone else this morning? However, this is what I found, church. I'd rather face the unknown with God than click to the familiar without Him. I'd rather face the unknown with God than cling to what's familiar to me without God. You see, better obedience with God than man's approval without Him. You see, obedience, church, is our responsibility. An outcome is God's. And sometimes we as people, or maybe I'm just putting myself in the mix here, I want to know all the outcomes. I want to know what's after. But that's not really how God works, is it? He calls us in often to the unknown. You see, I want to be really honest just for a second. Is it all right if I be honest, church? Is it all right if I'm vulnerable in my own church? I think it is. You're allowed me to. What we're experiencing, even last Sunday, I don't think I'm the better last Sunday yet. Do you know what? If we're only baptizing you today, that's enough. You two are our prayers. We spent this week with church planters from all around Europe, and I got to do a lot of training, and I spent a lot of time with my pastor, Gary Davis, and I know many of you know him, and I too am a man under authority, just saying. And we were just talking to them, and we were talking about vision, and church, we don't need a vision. We are the Joshua generation. Our vision is simple. It's you. And it's them. It's the people. Our vision's simple. Everybody we meet. But what we're experiencing at the Hills Church right now was only a vague dream back in 2011 when I had no idea. I mean, I'd left school before the whole thing was read up, to be honest, and you know my story a little bit. And for you that don't, I left school a little bit earlier than maybe I should. And my GCSEs, let's just say, are a little bit light. We'll call it that. I'm not saying I'm proud of that. I'm saying if you're at school today, fair play to you, work hard. Let's give everybody going through their GCSEs and all right now a clap, actually. Do the best what you have. I mean, if I could tell the Andy anything sooner, I'd say, Andy, knuckle in and work hard. But God came into my life when I was 25 years old, and He radically changed my life forever. Hey, I'm going to say a prayer at the end of the service today. You too can start that relationship with God. Maybe you haven't started that yet. Maybe you've walked away from it. Today you can reconnect. But back in 2011, when I had no idea, I didn't go to Bible college to be a pastor. I gave my life to the Lord in 2008, and in 2010 I enrolled in university for the first time. I mean, it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever done. I had never read a book. I had never done an essay. It was crazy. I remember meeting Nathan, and he was only out of school, and he knew everything, and I knew absolutely nothing. Nothing's changed. Even this morning, he's at work at the fire service, and there's about 20 phone calls asking him about sound and et cetera, et cetera. But I felt so inadequate. I felt so terrified that I'd done the wrong thing. I felt kind of embarrassed. Listen, I want to speak to you this morning. To see if you're feeling embarrassed, I want to speak especially to our young people, or pressure for following God. Listen, following God is the best thing that you can ever do with your life. The world is searching for the very thing that we all have. And He isn't a thing or a place. He's a person. And His name is Jesus. He can bring peace where there's no peace. He can bring hope when there's no hope. He can bring contentment that cannot be found in anything. And I am proof of that. But I can remember walking through those streets, and if you had told me what God would have done today, I never would have believed it. But I didn't have a dream of planting a church. I had just a dream that people would come to know God. I had a dream that people would experience the peace that I found. And God called me away from home, and I was kind of a little bit angry. I was going, God, why am I in England? Why am I in a place where... But God took me through it. If God has brought you to it, He will bring you through it. Yes? If God has brought you through it, He will bring you through it. Is there anyone alive this morning? Let's give God a clap right now. He'll bring you through it. And even though wherever you're at right now may be the most painful scenario that you ever thought you'd face, and I know there's people here this morning hurting, I know there's people here with different things going on in their lives and loss and all these different things. Listen, God will bring you through it. Yes, some people are clapping this morning. But God has, and God is, and He is doing way more than I could dreamed of or imagined. I went just in the obedience of God, and I've come to see so much more outcome than I could dream or imagine. We are literally experiencing the Ephesians 3 verse 20 God. You see, I'm humbled to see how well people are doing in their life. People doing successful, people getting on, people fulfilling their God-given purpose, people stepping out into baptisms. See people stepping into the next step of all that God has for them. And church, we're just getting started. So when you find yourself in a season that feels wasted, whether it's a delay, a struggle, betrayal, or a time where nothing seems to happen, remember, but God is still at work. He is still moving. He can and will redeem this season. And that's why today we're talking about, but God can redeem. You see, one of the clearest pictures of redemption in the Bible is found in the life of Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison, and completely forgotten. But Acts chapter 7, verse 9 to 10, I'm going to paraphrase it this morning. I believe the words will be on the screen. His brothers, the brothers, basically this word means his brothers, the older brothers, were jealous of Joseph and sold him into slavery. But God was with him and rescued him from all his troubles. Let's break it down and see God's but God moments in Joseph's life real quick this morning. He was sold, but God was with him. He was forgotten, but God redeemed him. Accused, but God vindicated him. Imprisoned, but God promoted him. Rejected, but God restored him. Betrayed, but God remained faithful. Hopeless, but God brought purpose. Overlooked, but God elevated him. In despair, but God gave him vision. Hurt, but God healed him. What about your story this morning, Hills Church? You might feel like it's unfair. You might feel overlooked at work, but God sees you. Forgotten by friends or family, but God remembers you. Stuck in a dry season, but God is still moving. Hurting, but God restores. Dreaming, but delayed, but God is preparing you. Facing disappointment, but God is promoting you. Discouraged or rejected, but God remains faithful. Even when life looks hopeless, God is our hope behind the scenes. Your lowest points, our lowest points, do not disqualify us. They prepare us. Our setbacks are not the end. They are the setup for your but God moment. And I can remember looking back now, and if I only had the wisdom to stop overthinking it and panicking back when I was in college, to think, what was God doing? If I would only relied and enjoyed it more, that's the only thing I would say to myself then. Because pain doesn't mean that God has left you. You see, even when life looks hopeless, God is still at work behind the scenes. We often assume, though, that pain equals punishment, that pain equals failure, and pain, we also think that means that God isn't there. You see, never in the Bible does it say we wouldn't have problems, but everywhere in the Bible it says that He'll be with us in all our problems. But Joseph proves the opposite. He was most in the will of God when life looked the worst. Sometimes the palace is on the other side of the pit. Sometimes blessing is on the other side of betrayal. Sometimes your lowest moments are preparing you for your greatest purpose. Is it just me that God's speaking to me this morning? Is there anyone else in this building? But sometimes to step fully into what God has for you, you have to let go of some things and people. There were battles I didn't see. Days after coming back from America, when God spoke to us about starting this church, before we started it, I thought, now it's time, now it will happen. But nothing moved, and every single thing felt delayed. You see, I've always wanted instant results. I still always want instant results. Anyone else? You see, I want to be a microwave guy. 30 seconds, ping, and she's ready to go. Why is a toaster, when you're waiting on toast, the slowest thing in the world? And when you're in a hurry and trying to get the kids to school, it seems to be the fastest. But God, He's a slow cooker God. He's not in any hurry. Delays are not wasted seasons. They strengthen trust, they shape character, and prepare you for the next season. Even now, I sometimes think I'm in delay. But when I step back, I see these delays are some of the best days we've ever lived in. Miraculous days. Days to trust, grow, enjoy the journey, and celebrate God's faithfulness. Even today, I can think, how is God going to do it? How is He going to get us to this next season? But God has a plan. But God has, but God is, and God will. So when your seasons feel wasted, delays, struggles, betrayals, or nothing happening, remember, but God is at work. But God can redeem it, church. Say it after me. But God can redeem it. Excellent work. You see, here's the beautiful truth. God doesn't just save us and leave us where we are. I said this already this morning. But God redeems everything. Even what has been stolen, broken, or looks wasted. You see, I want to say 3 points this morning. And the first one is this, that God redeems what was stolen. And we're going to learn that when we look at the life of Joseph. What was stolen from you is not the final word, church. What was stolen from you is not the final word. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers. He was sold into slavery, robbed of his childhood, his freedom, and the protection he should have had. Everything that was supposed to be his was literally taken away. But God redeemed Joseph's identity. But God didn't let betrayal define him. God didn't let stolen things determine his worth. What was taken from him was not the final word. And that same God sees you today. A parent absent, but God sees you. A friend betrayed you, but God calls you chosen. A dream stolen, but God can give it back even bigger. Opportunities lost, but God can restore them. Sometimes something may have been taken from you, but God can redeem it. He can restore it. He can make it better than you ever dreamed or imagined. Nothing lost in His hands is ever truly lost. Point number 2, God redeems what was broken. You see, God specializes in taking broken pieces and making them whole and beautiful. Joseph was falsely accused. His reputation was destroyed. His integrity was attacked. Everything he worked for seemed to collapse. But God restored what was broken. He didn't just patch it up. He took the pieces and built something greater than before. And that same God can do the same thing for you. Broken relationships, but God can heal them. Dreams that felt crushed, but God can restore them. Bruised hearts, fragmented minds, emotional wounds, I don't know. But God can make them whole. Psalm 34 verse 18 reminds us of this. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Church, God specializes in taking broken pieces and making them whole and beautiful. What you thought was ruined, the parts of your life you wished you could erase, but God can redeem them. You see, God redeems what looks wasted. With God, nothing is wasted. Every delay is preparation, and every moment has purpose. Joseph spent years in prison, years that seemed like nothing was happening, years that felt wasted. But God was preparing him. Your waiting periods, your tears, your setbacks, your losses, none of them are wasted because God can redeem them. But God can turn every situation and season that feels like nothing into preparation, into purpose, and into His blessing. And that applies to us today as well. A season where it feels nothing is moving, but God is moving behind the scenes. Tears you've cried in private, but God is using them for His glory. Delays unanswered prayers, seasons of waiting, but God is getting you ready for the next season. Unanswered prayers that may fail, families that are not know God yet, but God is working in their hearts. Are you with me this morning, church? You see, Romans 8, verse 28 tells us, and we know that in all things, God works. Somebody say all things. In all things, God works for the good of those who love Him. Even what feels wasted, even the seasons where nothing seems to be happening, are in God's hands. Our delays, our quiet seasons, our moments of waiting, but God is working. But God is shaping us. He's strengthening us. And He's preparing us for what's next. Hear this morning. God can redeem what was stolen from you. He can redeem what was broken in you. And He can redeem what looks wasted in our lives. Nothing is outside of His reach. Nothing is too far gone. Your story is not over. Your pain is not final. Your delay is not meaningless. God is still at work. God is still writing your but God moment. Genesis chapter 50 and verse 20 says this. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. The enemy meant to stop you, but God will shape you. The enemy meant to crush you, but God will crown you. The enemy meant to bury you, but God is planting you and growing you stronger than before. As we bring this message to a close today, church, will you stand with me right now? I want to give people the opportunity to respond today to this message. Anyone else encouraged this morning? God, you're good. See, some of you are here today feeling forgotten, but God remembers you. Overlooked, but God sees you. Mistakes, they feel like they ruined everything, but God can restore them. Dreams dead, but God can bring them back to life. Dreams today are going to be restored. Lost time, but God redeems it. Hurt, but God can heal. Finances stuck, but God can provide. Relationships broken, but God repairs. Faith weak, but God strengthens. Hope gone, but God renews. Prayers unanswered, but God can still answer prayer. Heart weary, but God gives you rest. Even for believers that are walking with God for years, God still has but God moments for you. Spiritually dry, but God refreshes. Stuck in a rut, but God brings breakthrough. Carrying guilt or shame, but God can bring freedom. Feeling distant, but God draws you close. Struggling, but God gives you hope. Your story isn't over. The enemy might have tried to discourage you, delay you, or derail you, but God is still at work. And for those getting baptized, or those thinking about getting baptized today, baptism matters because it's a public declaration of your but God moment. My life was heading one way, but God stepped in and redeemed it. The greatest redemption story ever told is Jesus. They killed Him, they buried Him, but God raised Him to life. You see, if God can redeem the cross, He can redeem our pain. If God can bring resurrection from the death, He can bring purpose from no matter our past.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's message. We hope that it has encouraged you and inspired you in your walk with God.
Yes, and if you've responded or you'd love to connect with us, you can do that on the connect part in our website. As well as that, we'd love to see you at one of our services. We meet here at Hills Church every Sunday at 11 a.m. and we'd love to see you in person for one of our services. Hey, thanks again for tuning in.